Good evening, everyone. Mike Palmer from Know Your Rights Group and Success Coaching International with another live video update. As you can see, I'm joined tonight by Darren Dixon. Thanks so much for coming in, mate. Really appreciate it.
No problem, Mike.
So, look, obviously, Dictator Dan has done his big backflip in Victoria. He's told everybody that as of midnight tonight, you can only have 5 people in your house. Again, I feel most sorry for all those cafes and restaurants. They got all their staff fired up. They're all geared up to be able to handle up to 50 people as of tomorrow. They've gone and ordered new food. A lot of them have created new menus. They've done a lot of work in preparation to be able to handle 50 people in their venues. And now, of course, Dictator Dan's done a backflip and said, no, it's going to remain as only 20 people in the venues up until the 12th of July now. So they're the ones that are going to be hurting the most. But what's really of concern is good old Dan has gone out there and he's directed his minions, the lovely police, the men and women in blue, to specifically go out and start knocking on people's doors and checking that they're complying with these social distancing requirements and that nobody has any more than 5 people in the house. Now, surely this is a severe invasion of privacy.
100%.
And so, I mean, you know, we're getting a lot of questions, and I've been doing these videos obviously for a few months now, and I'm sure everyone's getting sick of looking at my ugly mug. So, thought, look, let's get some new faces in and some new information and new research, and this is obviously something you've spent a fair bit of time looking into. So, I mean, what can people do to protect themselves when the boys and girls in blue come, knocking on the door and asking them a million questions, basically?
Firstly, don't answer the door.
Great tip. Perfect.
Secondly, if you do choose to answer the door, simply state that you're the only person home. And thanks for your concern. I'll keep an eye out for the community.
Excellent. I like it.
So you're just doing your due diligence there. Make sure you're a team player. But personally, I would not open the door. Mm-hmm. There's nothing in the act that obligates you to open the door, so you don't have to open the door, guys. So the least said is the better option. Don't go. A lot of people think it's time to practice. The police are coming. Sometimes it is if you're pretty knowledgeable, but it's really not a good idea because the police are out there fishing for information. Mm-hmm. They're just trying to get a response out of you so that they can issue a fine when you make an admission to them.
So what about the idea of putting up a no trespassing sign on the front of your property? Perhaps at your gate, perhaps at your front door, security door, anything like that?
Definitely. So I do believe with trespass, if you put 2 signs up, one on your front gate, one on your door, and then when police knock on the front door, because they have access to the front door by law, if you open the door and tell them they're trespassing for a 3rd time, they are obligated to leave the property.
Yeah. Now, Plenty v Dillon is obviously the landmark case in that, and I mean you can get trespassing notices from a lot of places. We've got them in our book. Aussie Speeding Fines have got them, I believe, in their book. So a really powerful notice to put up as a first sign of resistance, I guess.
100%. And look, even a piece of paper with no trespass written on it in Texter is better than nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So pull out the laminator and just get stuck into it.
Absolutely. Okay, so obviously, we've been doing a lot of coaching calls through the Know Your Rights group for a lot of people, and I know, we're hearing a lot more stories or a lot more people saying, listen, I've got one of these, COVID-19 fines. I went to one of the protests and I've got a fine. How do I deal with it? What do I do about it? What's the deal there in your experience?
Yeah, I've had a few people ask me in regards to the fines, and what's happening is obviously police are using facial recognition. We've seen a few people having photos of themselves put under their noses by the police once they've attended their premises. And basically, once again, the police are there fishing. They're on a fishing expedition. Yep. I suggest not to say too much, but look, there's a couple of things that you need to know, and I'm just going to read from the directions themselves. And what it actually is a person must not refuse or fail to comply with a direction given to you or a requirement made of you, okay? Now, this is the thing, that is something that has to be done before you go to the actual, let's say it's a protest. So they're saying that if you cannot fail to comply with that direction, but the thing is, how are they aware that you've received the direction? The second part of the direction in regards to a penalty says that you're not guilty of an offence against what I just read to you if you had a reasonable excuse for failing or refusing to comply. So this is the thing. If you fail or refuse to comply, well, how can you fail or refuse to comply if you weren't given the direction? Now,
Exactly.
when police come to your door and they say, this is one mistake I've seen a lot of people making. They come to your door and they're fishing. They've got their rods out and they're fishing. And they say, you've committed an alleged offence under the COVID-19 laws. And all these people go, oh my God, they're not laws, they're directions. And by saying that, you make the admission that you are aware of the direction and now, therefore, you are guilty of the offence that they're about to accuse you of. So you're basically dobbing yourself in by trying to educate the police about the law. So you're better off not mentioning too much and just basically asking the police, sorry, when was I given the direction that I had to comply with? Because I do believe the directions are given by the Chief Health Officer. Well, if they're given by the Chief Health Officer, that's who is that? And they'll tell you it's Anna Von Diemen. Is that what's her name?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And
sounds about right.
Well, you can tell the police that you've never met her, so how are you to receive this direction? So they must substantiate the intent and whether you had knowledge of the direction prior to issuing the infringement, and that's what they're there doing. They're there fishing for that information, and as I've seen on a couple of videos, people are just handing that up to them, and that's why they're getting these infringements issued to them. So you've got to keep your mouth shut, okay, folks? And just all you need to know is that you have not been given a direction, and nor do you know the person who gave the direction. So you have to fail to comply with the direction before an infringement can be issued. So where was the direction that I failed with and when did I receive it?
And a perfect example of this, of course, is all of the protests that went on around the country only a few weeks ago, because the police all essentially said, oh, well, you know, we'd rather you didn't, but, you know, if you're going to protest, you're going to protest. So there was no actual directive, do not turn up to the protests. Okay, and again, people were turning up to the protests and there were police all around. None of the police actually were coming up to people, you must go home right now. That's,
100%.
That's a directive. So how have you failed to comply with a directive if you haven't been given one? You can't turn up, a week later and say, oh, but you failed to comply with a directive because you didn't get one.
Exactly. You have to receive the directive before they can issue the infringement. Now, it's all you have to use is a bit of common sense, guys, and the police should walk away.
Absolutely. Now, just one final thing, speaking of the police, I know that a lot more people are out on the roads, they're driving around, the state coffers have been slowly drying up, so they're eager to make some more revenue, so they've been handing out those fines like lollies again. Would you agree that this concept of, keep your mouth closed and don't say too much when you're pulled over by the police applies equally, with traffic fines and all the rest of it?
Yep, 100%. Look, if the police do pull you up and ask you what you're doing, you could say you're on your way to engage services, goods and services from either your local petrol station, or you're going to the doctor, or you're simply going to help a relative, and they are reasonable excuses for the police not to fine you. If you go and have a look at the directions, they're on the Department of Health and Human Services website, and you can have a look at those links there, and they have all the reasonable excuses that you can provide to a police officer so as not to get fined. And they're pretty simple. I'm on my way to get some petrol, or I'm going to help my mother out.
That's it. And even just simple things. I mean, the police, as you well know, they are trained in asking these leading questions. They pull you over. What's the hurry, mate? Where's the fire? Why were you speeding? And people go, oh, and bang, they start rolling into the excuses and stuff. And
Exactly.
bingo, they've got them there.
Yeah.
it's so important to know what to say and what not to say, and what to do and what not to do before you get the fine. So, again, a timely reminder to anyone who's a motorist in this country, if you don't have this Aussie Speeding Fines book, go and grab a copy. It is quite simply the best motoring investment you'll ever make. There's a link in the description of the video, and it prepares you. Get this before you get the inevitable fine. Don't wait till afterwards. Okay, and if you're getting fed up, if you're concerned about this second wave that they're talking about, if you're concerned about the mandatory vaccinations that they keep talking about, if you're concerned about them bringing in more laws unlawfully, under the cover of this whole COVID-19 pandemic, make sure you grab a copy of our ebook, the essential step-by-step manual for understanding and exercising your rights. It talks about the history of the laws. It teaches you about your rights. It teaches you what to look out for. It teaches you how to write to the governments and their agencies, asking questions in the right ways to get effective answers that you can then use down the track. So again, go to our website, grab a copy of that. So, mate, thanks so much for coming down. Thanks so much for sharing those tips with people. I know that a lot of people are going to appreciate those. Obviously, people in Victoria, they're taking a back step. There's been a lot of talk in the media now about Queensland and whether or not they're going to open their borders because it's dependent on what happens in Victoria. And look, we've been saying this for years. Victoria is, the guinea pig state. Australia, okay, is the guinea pig country for the world. When the elite want to try out some new law and see what they can get away with, or some new restriction, they try it in Australia. And when they come to Australia and they want to try it out on the people, they try it in Victoria. Okay, they see what they can get away with and what people will arc up about. So rest assured that if they get away with it in Victoria, it's going to start happening in all the other states as well. So don't think you're immune to it. It's very likely coming. So please use this opportunity. Use this time to inform and educate yourself, get educated, get fired up, and please get proactive as always. Thanks again, Darren, for coming in. And we, of course, will be speaking to everybody live on Tuesday night on our radio show. And you can go to knowyourrightsgroup.com.au/radio-show and tune into that at 8 o'clock on Tuesday evening. Thanks, and we'll talk to you all on Tuesday night.